Language Foundations Vocabulary Flashcards, helping you achieve understanding.
The most common medium of exchange functions as legal tender. We tried to collect the money he owed us. The official currency issued by a government or national bank. He changed his money into francs. Wealth reckoned in terms of money. All his money is in real estate. Anything that is generally accepted as a standard of value and a measure of wealth in a particular country or region. Anything that is generally accepted as a standard of value and a measure of wealth in a particular country or region. The property of belonging to the present time. The currency of a slang term. General acceptance or use. The currency of ideas. The metal or paper medium of exchange that is presently used. The state of being rich and affluent, having a plentiful supply of material goods and money. Great wealth is not a sign of great intelligence. An abundance of material possessions and resources. Property that has economic utility, a monetary value or an exchange value. The quality of profuse abundance. She has a wealth of talent. Informal terms for money. Food made from dough of flour or meal and usually raised with yeast or baking powder and then baked. Cover with breadcrumbs. Bread the pork chops before frying them. Incorporation by joining or uniting. A deliberate act of acquisition of something, often without the permission of the owner. The necessary funds were obtained by the government's appropriation of the company's operating unit. Money set aside, as by a legislature, for a specific purpose. Informal terms for money. A gambling card game in which chips are placed on the ace and king and queen and jack of separate suits, taken from a separate deck. A player plays the lowest card of a suit in his hand and successively higher cards are played until the sequence stops. The player who plays a card matching one in the layout wins all the chips on that card. A line indicating the location of the start of a race or a game. A depression scratched or carved into a surface. Informal terms for money. Cause friction. My sweater scratches. An indication of damage. Carve, cut, or etch into a material or surface. The lovers scratched their names into the bark of the tree. Dry mash for poultry. Remove by erasing or crossing out or as if by drawing a line. Scratch that remark. A harsh noise made by scraping. An abraded area where the skin is torn or worn off. Scrape or rub as if to relieve itching. Don't scratch your insect bites. Gather, money or other resources, together over time. They scratched a meager living. Postpone indefinitely or annul something that was scheduled. Scratch that meeting. The chair is ill. Poor handwriting. Cut the surface of. Wear away the surface of. A competitor who has withdrawn from competition. Golf. A handicap of 0 strokes. A golfer who plays at scratch should be able to achieve par on a course. Informal terms for money. Paper money of little value issued on insufficient security. Informal terms for money. The act of providing a subsidy. money, or other benefits, obtained as a subsidy. The act of providing a subsidy. Money, or other benefits, obtained as a subsidy. An essential structural component of living cells and source of energy for animals. Includes simple sugars with small molecules as well as macromolecular substances, or classified according to the number of monosaccharide groups they contain. Informal terms for money. Sweeten with sugar. Sugar your tea. A white crystalline carbohydrate used as a sweetener and preservative. Coins of regular issue whose face value is greater than their intrinsic value. Informal terms for money. Small cylindrical beads made from polished shells and fashioned into strings or belts, used by certain Native American peoples as jewelry or currency. Make off with belongings of others. Informal terms for money. Any of various types of cabbage. Any of various cultivars of the genus Brassica oleracea grown for their edible leaves or flowers. Informal terms for money. Informal terms for money. Informal terms for money. A flour mixture stiff enough to knead or roll. A reserve of money set aside for some purpose. A financial institution that sells shares to individuals and invests in securities issued by other companies. A supply of something available for future use. Accumulate a fund for the discharge of a recurrent liability. Fund a medical care plan. Convert short-term floating debt into long-term debt that bears fixed interest and is represented by bonds. Furnish money for. The government funds basic research in many areas. Invest money in government securities. Place or store up in a fund for accumulation. Provide a fund for the redemption of principal or payment of interest. Informal terms for money. A hardy cabbage with coarse curly leaves that do not form a head. Informal terms for money. Coarse curly leafed cabbage. Informal terms for money. Any of various plants of the genus Lactuca. Leaves of any of various plants of Lactuca sativa. Ice cream or water ice on a small wooden stick. In England, a popsicle is called an ice lolly. Informal terms for money. Goods or money obtained illegally. Informal terms for money. Take illegally, of intellectual property. Steal goods, take as spoils. During the earthquake, people looted the stores that were deserted by their owners. The excess of revenues over outlays in a given period of time, including depreciation and other non-cash expenses. Informal terms for money. A reserve of money set aside for some purpose. Informal terms for money. Informal terms for money.
Become our student and get access to effective and free educational materials. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to become a part of our growing YouTube community and to learn English effectively.